Welcome back everyone, it's Charlie. This is my new Spider-Man No Way Home video. Sony and Marvel released a bunch of new promos. We'll break it down. There's a bunch of Easter eggs. I know you have all kinds of questions about what's going on with the movie because we're getting closer and closer to the end of the year. Thankfully, we've gotten our first look at Spider-Man and Doctor Strange in the movie, and we've gotten a bunch of new looks at his suits and some of their abilities. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos, and just careful for spoilers from the Loki series if you have not seen that yet, because I'll be talking a little bit about how that sets up Spider-Man No Way Home during the video. But you may have seen a lot of the promos in your timeline the past couple of weeks and some of these first looks and scenes from the movie. There's also a lot of stray promos and tie-ins referencing plot points like the whole Mysterio cliffhanger scene, as well as some of Spider-Man's new suits and abilities like the black and gold suit, the integrated suit with Spider-Man wielding magic like Doctor Strange. Peter Parker doesn't know anything about how to use magic, so it's not like he's going to become a sorcerer during the movie or anything like that. I'll explain how he's able to use magic with the new Spider-Man suits, because it's a cool twist on a concept that they explored in the comics a long time ago. More recently, it'll also probably remind you of the Peter Parker Spider-Man that we're going to see during the What If episodes. The Spider-Man that wears a cape. Spider-Man does not wear a cape, just everyone post all the memes from Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. He's a version of Spider-Man who's wielding Doctor Strange's cloak of levitation. He's an alternate universe version of Peter Parker, but his official designation on the show, at least as far as we know, is Zombie Hunter Spider-Man. The producers of What If explained what's going on with him during the show, so I'll talk about that at the end of the video. I know you're all wondering when we're going to get the new Spider-Man No Way Home trailer as well, so I'll address that because of what's happened recently with some of the announcements that Sony has made. Spider-Man No Way, we're going to get that trailer. But starting with this new first look at Spider-Man No Way Home, the main MCU Sacred Timeline version of Spider-Man, as we call him now after the Loki series. Yes, the events of the movie do overlap with the events of the Loki series a little, but Kang himself, Kang the Conqueror, and the other variants of Kang that they teased at the end of that won't be huge villains during Spider-Man No Way Home. It's still a Spider-Man movie. Obviously, there's been all those rumors about the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man and Tobey Maguire Spider-Man characters coming in. There are a couple of those Sinister Six characters that have been confirmed, but there's still a ton of rumors about other villains showing up. There's a multiverse element in play that I'll talk about in a second, but it's not completely relevant to what's happening during this first look here. In this new scene, though, we're seeing Spider-Man coming to talk to Doctor Strange. And if you couldn't tell just from the facade of the buildings here or the style of the street construction, this is meant to be Bleecker Street, and he's come to the front door of the New York Sanctum. Zoom in and enhance, you can see Doctor Strange is still wearing the Eye of Agamotto and his costume from Avengers Endgame, just coming out to meet him. The reason why I think this is happening earlier in the movie is one, because both of them have their older suits from the previous movies, like Spider-Man in his Steve Ditko red and black suit from the end of Spider-Man Far From Home. They're just calling that the upgraded suit during the movie, because there are many suits during the movie. The only main Doctor Strange costume change recently in the Marvel movies was that he lost the Time Stone during Avengers Infinity War to Thanos, and then Thanos atomized that version of the Infinity Stones during Endgame. So we still got the amulet, but not the Time Stone. Yes, Scarlet Witch did use her Chaos Magic and the Hex to recreate an Infinity Stone when she recreated Hex Vision, and her Chaos Magic power is canonically similar to the energy given off by the Infinity Stones, the background cosmic radiation that they talked about on WandaVision. But the whole idea is that that version of the Mind Stone that she recreated only worked inside the Hex. The minute that Hex Vision stepped outside the Hex, he just completely started to break down. So that's the way of class balancing her, so to speak. Like, yes, she can create Infinity Stones, but they only work inside this bubble here, so unless you made a hex that covered the entire planet, they wouldn't really be any good to you. Elizabeth Olsen said that the way they use her character, Scarlet Witch, during Doctor Strange 2 will be just a little bit different, but for the most part they're building on what they did with her in WandaVision. But because Spider-Man No Way Home is primarily a Spider-Man movie with some Doctor Strange in it, there'll be some magic, but they really won't be digging deeper into the nature of magic, just in general in the MCU, till you get to Doctor Strange 2. The other really obvious Easter egg that you probably spotted in the Spider-Man Doctor Strange scene here is the Feast truck. Most of you will remember Feast from the Spider-Man PS4 game or the Spider-Man Miles Morales game. Feast started in the comics. It's an acronym that stands for Food, Emergency Aid, Shelter, and Training. Martin Lee, Mr. Negative, created in the comics to be a humanitarian aid charity organization just to help in times of crisis, just generally help people around the city. Secretly, though, his Mr. Negative persona was using the Feast shelters as a front for his criminal activity in his Inner Demons gang. And eventually in the comics, after Spider-Man stopped Mr. Negative, Aunt May liked the idea and just took them and used them as actual shelters to help people. But there are a number of ways to explain why they have the Feast shelters in the movie. I haven't heard anything about Mr. Negative being a character in the movie, but I'm assuming they'll be part of the larger Sinister Six plot, and there will be some Easter eggs for the comic book version of the Feast shelters, like someone using them as a front for something really shady. Also, it's kind of shady that there's a feast truck parked right outside the sanctum, like one of the greatest centers of power in New York City. Just happens to be parked right outside, no big deal. Nothing special going on here. And while this is him outside the sanctum, we've actually already gotten a first look at Spider-Man, Ned Leeds, and MJ inside the sanctum. If you didn't make the connection earlier this year, when they released these scenes from the movie, you see them entering this really run-down looking building, like the Scooby Gang or something. They're actually entering the sanctum here. This scene of them standing in this really run-down looking room with the snow piling up against the interior walls, the paint peeling like everything's all run down, like everything's just decaying. It's actually the main entry room of the sanctum. You can see the floor pattern here is the exact same. In the other scenes, you see Spider-Man and the other two trying to solve a problem using Ned Leeds' laptop. Notice he's got the "This is fine" sticker from the meme. I think it's a nice wink to Spider-Man's current predicament, having been doxxed by Mysterio to the entire world. Like, everything is on fire, but no worries, everything is fine. If you saw the merchandise integrations, they depict some of the things that will be happening with Spider-Man inside the sanctum. It probably won't be exactly like we see in all these toy and merchandise integrations, but you get the idea, and it shows you some of the new Spider-Man suits. Wong also seems like one of the characters that gets a huge costume upgrade. We just saw him in the Shang-Chi trailer getting his ass kicked by the Abomination in that Mortal Kombat style tournament. My big theory as to why the sanctum looks so run down in all these scenes is that Doctor Strange does Spider-Man a solid and allows him to hide out in the sanctum just because he has nowhere to go. Like the title, Spider-Man No Way Home, is a metaphor for his storyline in the movie. It's also a reference to what's happening with the villains, which gets back to the plot of Loki, Kang, and the Multiverse War. But it sounds like Doctor Strange does him a solid and just allows him to use the sanctum to hide out. There's a rumor right now that the title No Way Home is a reference to the Sinister Six villains being multiverse villains. We know they're from the multiverse, but them having no way home because of the events of the Kang Multiverse War. Them literally not being able to go back to where they're from because you have Kang variants all over the multiverse erasing realities. The whole thing with Spider-Man wielding magic, though, with this black and gold suit in the promo and this other Iron Spider looking suit, which they're calling the integrated suit, is I believe it's meant to be a reference to Doctor Strange integrating his magic with the suits. You notice the magical shield that it seems like he's using has Spider-Man symbols and runes baked into it. The whole concept of combining different Avengers abilities and suits with magic goes way back to the old What If comics. There was a version of Iron Man that became Sorcerer Supreme and built a version of an Iron Man suit programmed with all of his spells, so that he could wield magic without having to cast spells, saving himself a bunch of time. Automatic spell casting. So I don't think that Doctor Strange is trying to turn Spider-Man into a sorcerer or anything. They're not going full Spider-Man Sorcerer Supreme. He's just integrating a couple extra abilities and powers into the suits that Spider-Man can use the same way he uses all of his other abilities that are built into the suits. Speaking of the Doctor Strange version of Spider-Man, talking about that version that we saw in the What If art with him wearing the Cloak of Levitation. As his name, Zombie Hunter Spider-Man, implies, it sounds like he's a big part of the Marvel Zombies storyline in the What If episodes, which seem like they boil over around the events of Avengers Infinity War. Benedict Cumberbatch is doing the voice of Doctor Strange in the series, so it's a version of his Doctor Strange just from an alternate universe that goes way darker. You notice he's wearing a very different looking cloak, so it sounds like Spider-Man was given the traditional Cloak of Levitation as a power upgrade in this because his version of Doctor Strange wasn't using it or didn't need it. It's also a funny way to pay off this scene from Avengers Infinity War where Spider-Man tries to have a conversation with the Cloak of Levitation. The whole thing with the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer is that you may have heard that Venom Let There Be Carnage was delayed just a couple weeks to mid-October, so I think that Sony is probably just waiting to make sure that they don't have to delay Spider-Man No Way Home before they start releasing trailers and promos. The best theory right now is they'll wait till Marvel actually releases Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings in theaters and attach the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer to that, or they'll wait till Venom Let There Be Carnage hits theaters. I don't think it has anything to do with spoiling anything from the movie or any big plot points with Multiverse or Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield. I think it's just about Sony being afraid of having to delay Spider-Man No Way Home. I will do more videos for the movie when we get more information or they actually do start releasing some footage. My full Marvel What If Episode 2 video will post on Wednesday just like normal. It's going to be the big Black Panther Star-Lord episode. It is going to be a banger. So everyone click here for my What If Episode 2 trailer video and click here for my full What If Episode 1 video. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe and I'll see you in the next video.